You're watching Standpoint. Thanks for staying with us. Now to another breaking news we had yesterday. The fact that organized labor staged a walkout from the meeting called by the federal government, that's the Presidential Steering Committee, which was supposed to be in talks, with or engagement with organized labor. You will recall that there was a meeting that was had on Wednesday, and then there was supposed to be a follow-up meeting on Friday to harmonize just a few details around how the palliatives palliatives arrangement after the fuel subsidy removal should go. And it seems like all was going well until we heard reports yesterday that organized labor has staged a walkout from that meeting. But let's get an insight into exactly what happened. Let's bring in Comrade Nuhu Toro. He's the General Secretary of the Trade Union Congress. Good to have you join us.
Yeah, good afternoon, Nigerians, and thank you for having me.
So on Wednesday, after the meeting, there was a briefing by all sides. And, the idea we got was that, all was going well and there were just a few things left to be harmonized by, all parties. Only to get that report yesterday that the organized labor staged a walkout. What exactly happened?
Well, it's dependent on what you mean by walkout, but the bottom line is we didn't form a quorum. And from that standpoint, no meaningful meeting could take place without a quorum being formed. We have equally queried the composition of the government team, which in our opinion was mismatched. For instance, if the issue of subsidy removal is taken serious by the Tinubu-led administration, we don't expect anybody less than perhaps maybe the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But if due to the exigencies of his office, he is not available, we will have thought that the Vice President should be on duty to negotiate and discuss with the organized labor. But sadly, that wasn't what we saw. What we saw was a special assistant to President Tinubu on energy was the only one at hand to discuss with organized labor. So we find that very insulting. And again, like I said, coupled with the fact that there was no quorum. So how do we proceed? Our challenges over the years have been you have a negotiation with some individuals who claim to be representing government, and at the end of the day, you are told that they don't have the mandate. So the issue of mandate deficit was also part of the critical reasons why the labor movement yesterday left the meeting.
I want to get to the issue of the capacity of those who you have been meeting with in just a moment, but I want to ask what your expectation was in terms of the quorum and who wasn't there at that meeting.
Okay, for instance, we were to look at the submission from the subcommittee on energy and transportation. Because those two ministries have no subsisting ministers, our assumption would have been that the permanent secretaries of those ministries will be available to have a discussion with us. We will have also thought that the chief of staff to Mr. President or the secretary to the government will be on duty to have this conversation with us. So none of those principal actors were on ground. And we found that ridiculous. If at the end of the day, ultimately, the ministries are supposed to pilot whatever immediate intervention the government is going to roll out, and they are not there. So we were taken aback. We were wondering at the end of the day whether it was just some form of tea party or what have you.
If the president has said, look, at this moment, one, I would have the special assistant or the special advisor on energy represent me at this meeting because, he's at the presidential villa and probably has, closest access to the president on energy. And that's one of the things we're supposed to be talking about. Wouldn't you rather be speaking to that person than not speaking at all?
No. Yeah, you have to understand our point of argument. If we avail ourselves for discussion, I mean, that cannot translate into not wanting to speak. I also didn't share with you another sad angle of the whole event. First, we were delayed at the gate of the entrance for over 1.5 hours. For over one and a half hours waiting to be cleared to join the meeting. That is not right. That is unacceptable to organized labor. If the security operatives or the protocol officers are aware that the labor movement were going to come for a discussion, we expect that our names should have been given to the clearance officer. So, and the moment we get there, will be cleared. So, if we've wasted 1.5 hours just for clearance, I wonder what we could get out of the entire meeting. So, that was the beginning. And by the time we got into the meeting room, there were virtually nobody. And we looked at it. We looked at the composition of the steering committee, which the government is also part of. And beside the NLC and TUC that were on ground, we discovered it were only less than 3 officers from the government side. And we found that a great mismatch of representation.
So I really want to get this clear because, you know, Nigerians are expecting, labor is seen as the representative of the Nigerians, not just the Nigerian workers, and the Nigerian workers make a large bulk of Nigerians. But in this conversation, because of what's going on today, Nigerians are seeing the labor not just as representative of workers, but as representative of Nigerians in this conversation. And I just want to get this clear because you have said, first of all, the capacity of those who were there, and then the quality, not just capacity, rather, the number of those who were there. And so that conversation couldn't happen. Yes. And then you also mentioned that you were delayed at the gate. So was there a point where you would have thought, okay, just because we're representing Nigerians, let's put something on the table and continue to push until we get what we're getting for Nigerians and not just look at the capacity? Because one would think that, look, the president has said represent me. It's like the president being there himself.
Well, you have a right to your opinion, but I don't think that is also correct. Yes, it is true. We have a responsibility to the poor Nigerians, the working people, and the entire poor Nigerians living below the poverty lines. And the truth of the matter is there is no way we will have proceeded with the meeting when we didn't form a quorum. You know the rules of engagement in terms of meeting. So which one will you prefer? That we continue discussing and ultimately at the end of the day,
Mr. Nutoro, I do not, okay, I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
So invariably what we are saying is, we are not saying that the organized labor is not going to negotiate. No, because we are desirous. In fact, that was why from the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, we gave the government 2 weeks within which to dispense with all of this immediate intervention. And you will agree with me that we have come out to tell Nigerians that within 8 weeks, there will be immediate intervention to deal with the prevailing subsidy removal. 4 weeks is gone. We are in the 5th week. And it was against that background we gave that marching order. So if we are not desirous of negotiating, we wouldn't have given it. Don't forget, the poor people in Nigeria are also our relatives. And it bites on even the workers and everybody. So we are all concerned. Roam the street of Abuja today, you will see chunk of workers trekking to work, not on evolution of theirs because they don't have the wherewithal to get the means of transportation to go to work. So we want this dispensed with as quickly as we can so
Mr. Toro, where do you stand now? I know you said you want this dispensed with as soon as possible. Are you going on with a planned protest, or are you leaving room for another conversation or engagement with the Presidential Steering Committee?
Okay, the government side have reached out to us. We are trying to reschedule, but I would like to allay your fears. The organized labor is not averse to negotiations. We believe strongly in the principles of social dialogue. It is during negotiations that we are able to put our points on the table and put our demands straight. So we are not ignorant of the value of negotiating. And I would like to assure you that we'll continue in that light until we ensure that the working people and the poor in Nigeria have some succor in the immediate.
And so what is left undone? Because I think it's the TUC, which you represent, have said that, look, they're giving the federal government 2 weeks to roll out the palliatives. I don't know how possible that is. But we also know that you mentioned 3 areas. There is that of the cash, conditional cash transfer, rather, the CNG, and the mass transit. Those are the areas of contention. Where are you on that conversation, and how soon will Nigerians begin to see things being rolled out in that regard?
Well, again, that was the problem. That was the problem we had with yesterday's meeting, because, for instance, if the subcommittee on transport were to brief the steering committee and we didn't form a quorum, we found that ridiculous and unacceptable. So right now, the committee on energy and transportation were to brief the steering committee. The steering committee is like a clearinghouse where all of the subcommittees on cost of governance, mass transit, social sector intervention / education, the committee on intervention fund and wage award were supposed to make recommendation to the steering committee, who will look at its merit and demerits and then forward it for immediate action. So we are still very, very much available. We are also consulting with our colleagues, but I would like to assure Nigerians that we are desirous. We are desirous to expedite action in dispensing with immediate effect what Nigerians are going through, because that is the reason why, in the first place, we agreed to have a conversation around what needs to be done to deal with the immediate situation that has bedeviled our country. And again, it brings to bear the horrid nature in which the government pull out the subsidy. So it becomes debatable which one comes first, the egg or the hen. If these discussions were done perhaps from ab initio, then we might not go this route. We would have been able to put all of these nitty-gritty areas on the table, which the government failed to leverage on. And that is why we are where we are today.
So from what I understand, there is another scheduled meeting, and we would like to see how that will play out. Mr. Nuhu Toro, again, like I said, Nigerian workers and Nigerians are looking up to the organized labor to go through with this and get them, palliatives that would actually ameliorate the current situation, not just workers, but Nigerians as a whole. Thank you so much for talking to us. The General Secretary, Trade Union Congress, Comrade Nuhu Toro. And that was Comrade Nuhu Toro talking about the walkout staged by organized labor yesterday at the meeting with the federal government on palliative plans for Nigerian workers and Nigerians as a whole, and the aftermath of the removal of fuel subsidy. But that's where we'll leave it. There is a repeat broadcast you can watch at 11 p.m. tonight and 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. Thanks for watching. I am Precious Amayo.